There is an office upstream of leadership. It's a position of power that most have never heard of, but we're all governed by. It's governance. Governance deals with the architecture and order of power, the physics of reality, and creation energetics. It's likely that you've clicked this video because you've been following me and you need a condensed, comprehensive definition of governance, or you suspect that you are a governor yourself. That's why in this video, I'll break down exactly what governance is, summon you into your true jurisdiction and responsibility, and clarify your true ontology. Anyways, hi, I'm Naomi Olotayo, the Brand Priestess, and I awaken founders and high-ranked leaders to their governance. Here, we talk about brand strategy and architecture for empire building and realm authoring. If this video resonates with you, I highly suggest you go to the link in the description to download my free audio transmission from leadership to governance, recognizing your unclaimed jurisdiction. That is the first step towards fully encompassing yourself with who you are as a governor. Anyways, let's get into it. Governance, in short, is the architecture of order. We're all governed by something. Governance is not something that we create into existence. It's something that is. It's something that brings order to chaos, that brings order to law. For example, God is the ultimate governor, source, universe, or whatever you want to say. But even notice how there is a hierarchy. You might say there's God, then you might say there's angels. Depending on who you ask, then you might go down from there. And you even see it in how the earth is structured. We have space, we have the ozone layer, we have the sky, we have the land, we have the water. Like, everything has an order that functions harmoniously. That's what governance is. Those with governance, or governors, are ontologically a governor. It is in their makeup. We're all made with different functions. However, governors have the makeup to legislate, to author, to govern, and to create at a collective scale. Those with governance also house the office of governance. Like I said, we all operate from order, but we're not all housed in the office and jurisdiction for it. For more examples, the animal kingdom. Another example, wealth, fame, status, the human organ system. There are levels of order that need to be in congruence with each other for systems to function. That is governance. Governors have the jurisdiction, though, to transform our relationship to reality on a collective scale. And that looks like authoring realms. Realms are boundaried and defined segments of reality that produce outcomes according to its principles, laws, and paradigms. And those very outcomes show itself through the very systems and industries you've been envisioning impacting. And that is done through legislation. For example, it makes sense now why you have that multi-venture vision. You can't just speak it into reality, it's reinforced. And that's what makes you an originator. That's why your multi-venture vision is so unprecedented, why it's so ahead of its time, why it doesn't even fully fit into, I guess, the containers that we have right now. It's because you were supposed to create the container for it to exist, and then bring more in alignment with that. And that's what governance is. That is what authoring a realm is, containment. The definition of legislate is to control, create, or cause something by making laws. That's a definition of outcomes. So my definition for governance, for legislation I mean, is the use of creation energetics to ordain a realm into existence and to produce accompanying outcomes. Governance is gravity. It's a function that already exists once a realm exists. You don't invent gravity. You learn how to move lawfully within it. You don't build governance. That's not how it works at all. Sorry, I lost my place. You don't build governance, you recognize it, and then you submit to its constraints, and then you author within it. It's just like, when you think of gravity, we don't have to be aware of it. I'm sure there was a time that has an actual date where we couldn't say where we discovered gravity, but gravity's been discovered because we've been governed by it forever. There's never not been a time where we as humans have experienced the world, to my knowledge, that we have not experienced the outcomes of the laws of gravity. The outcome is what goes up must come down. It doesn't matter who you are. Of course, different people, like locationally and according to the species, we experience gravity differently. Like a bird experiences gravity different than a human, but gravity's laws are the same. It's just how we interact with the laws are different. Hence why I say governance is ontological. The way that you are able to sympathize and relate to certain laws on a collective scale is different than most people. Most of us live in the outcomes of laws like gravity, but very few of us have the intelligence, the bandwidth, and the training to not just exist in the outcome of gravity, but work with reality to produce the conditions that then generate those outcomes. And another example would be the people who first flew a plane, the people who created the plane. For us, we know what goes up can't come down. I mean, what goes up must come down. So why would we rationally think that we could fly? But they understood those laws in such a way that now they created a whole new relationship to reality. For the first time, we can fly en masse. Like, I know we are in the future where planes have been here forever, but there was a time where that was unheard of. That was completely unprecedented. That is what your vision is for. That is what your vision is for. And it might not be for something in terms of invention, but it could be in concept. Things that are just unprecedented, that are just unheard of because our understanding of reality right now doesn't house it. That's what governors do. That is where they function. The realms of the universe already exist, and so do their laws. So when I say you're architecting a realm or you're influencing the way that we interact with reality, I'm not saying you're going to make something up. I'm not saying that you're just going to come in here and force everyone. Because if you're forcing people into something, you are not governing. Governing does not require force. It does not require immorality. It does not require for you to lose yourself or abandon yourself for it to happen or exist. And every other person who presently has positions of governance right now, one of the most notable, examples I use are the colonizers and how they've colonized the whole world and how people just completely abandoned their original roots in favor for what they were given from colonizers. That's an example of it. But if you have to go that route, you are not governing. You are infringing on people's sovereignty, and that is not ordained at all. But my point is, the realms already exist. They're just uncontained and they're undefined. Like in the Stone Age, capitalism existed as a concept, but the conditions couldn't produce a capitalist society yet. Or another example, the patriarchy has existed. The concept of patriarchy didn't need it to exist for it to exist. You know what I mean? It's almost like an accumulation of laws and principles and frameworks and ideologies and paradigms and culture and language and everything that comes together and forms this irrefutable segment of reality, which is a realm. So they always existed. It's just, it was not existed yet. You follow? The job of governors is to bring name to those concepts. There was a time where we were operating in a capitalist society and the word capitalist, that was not a word. There were times where we may have lived, I don't know if there was a time, I don't know. You get the point. Like, people coined these things. Or for example, for a movement, the Me Too movement, conceptually it existed, but it didn't exist yet. It wasn't grounded in reality. Your job as governor is to organize conceptually these laws and legislate and name it. And that's how things begin to spread. And then you reinforce and expand that realm through creating structures to support it. And that is how you become the standard or the blueprint and the only option of success according to the laws of that realm. Like, look at capitalism. There are very specific laws of capitalism that you must follow. And because of how capitalism is, like, you don't always get what you are after, I guess, according to who you are, but for a lot of people, it is. Evangelicalism is very good at this. They're very good at realm building. They're very good at having a hold on reality. We see it all over the world. Cultures that had no business even speaking the name of evangelical ideals, and they have it over there because of colonization. So, but yeah. Anyways, governors need jurisdiction, which is given by God, source with the Most High, however you like to define him or her. And I want to make that distinction important because I started off this video saying that governance is the architecture of order, that God is governance. There is an order. Think about it. Like I was explaining, like you might have God, you might have angels, or whatever, however you want to break down the spirit realm. But it's not just in energetic beings or spiritual beings, it's also in law. We are housed within the consciousness of God. We ourselves have consciousness, which means that our consciousness is governed by God's. We may have free will, we may, like have different influences, but either way, we exist within the mind of God. We are made in the image of God. In order for there to be an image, there has to be an original. You see what I mean? Like there's an order to things. But the reason why I say that jurisdiction has to be given by God is because he is the original order. And that is not a religious statement. The goal for governance is to align the earth with heaven's order. Heaven's order is reciprocity, is coherence, is love. That is the order. And that order is the most reliable order that maintains all of our sovereignty and our humanity at the same time, and our divinity, without collapse, without infringing on anyone. Jurisdiction is given by birthright and is activated by alignment, capacity, timing, and consent. You can't decide to be a governor. You are imparted with a jurisdiction to do so. So for this video, if you are a governor, you will know. And if you don't know, it'll be confirmed to you. And if you still don't know, once you start speaking, I am a governor, according to the law of call and response, life will begin to check you. The same thing as anything. They teach us in manifestation too. When you invoke the name of God, I am, and you attach a name to it, life will check to see if you are who you are. When you say that I am a governor, you are now inhabiting or invoking a level of jurisdiction according to God's order. And you're going to have to stand on that. So this video will confirm to you what God has already told you. It's either that or this will just bring like a deep awareness of knowing. Again, there's an office of governor and there's the governance that we all exist within and through and by. Like, again, the sky, and then what's above the sky, what's below the sky, like there's an order to things. We're all governed by something. But the office is where you have the jurisdiction to create outcomes on a collective scale. And if you don't have the jurisdiction for governance and then you try to create those outcomes, you will be using force, manipulation, war, genocide, crime, self-abandonment, and collapse to express your governance. And that's how I know you don't have the jurisdiction. Because of how the world is set up, we don't go according to our ontology. We don't go according to who God has given us a knowledge of, who is, I guess, who they are. Like the Avatar. Like no one could be the Avatar in the show. It was just him because he had the nature for it. It's the same thing. We don't have like that, what's the word? We don't have that recognition in our world for governors, at least to my knowledge. So you're gonna have to get this confirmed, but either way. And if you do have governance, I guess for the inverse, once consented to and aligned with, you won't have to work against people's sovereignty, harm others or yourselves, be immoral, or collapse to execute your own. You won't have to do any of that. it might not be easy. Like, this will be something that requires a lot of you, but you won't have to disorient yourself or go against yourself for it to work. Governors are artists of consequence, responsibility, inevitability, outcomes, sovereignty, creation, authoring, legislation, logic, and sequence. Those are their paintbrushes and their pens and their paint and everything. Those are the realms through which they deal with, especially consequence and inevitability and outcomes. There's also no plausible deniability for governors. The thing is, most of us don't have to confront the consequences of things or the responsibility of the consequences of things. We don't have to take responsibility for consequences. And we see this happen in the government. We see this happen in the after effects of colonialism. We see this happen all the time with abusive dynamics. Like, you don't have to, because there's nothing in this world that, at least in this Eastern world, Western world, that forces you to confront yourself. The only time you're forced to confront yourself is if you get caught by law enforcement that will force you to have a punishment, or the person who you try to make them bear the consequences of your actions, if they do something to then make you, I guess they push it back and like, I'm not going to carry that for you. And even then, that's not all the time. So the thing with governance is that when you say that you're a governor, or you recognize that you're a governor, you're really saying that I am accountable for outcomes. And in this sense, on a collective scale, and even, of course, on an individual, community, familial scale. So that's one thing you have to remember too. Governors ask these 3 questions. Who has the jurisdiction to change the laws through which we're all governed by so the outcomes of systems change? What laws presently govern us all, and what outcomes are they producing on a systemic, community, and individual level? And what outcomes do my multi-venture vision want me to produce? And laws does my realm need to create for the conditions who, whoa, hold on one second. I wrote that sentence real oddly. What outcomes do my multi-venture vision want to produce? And what laws do my realm need in order to create the conditions where those outcomes are inevitable? Those are the 3 questions that governors ask. You will know you have governance. No, I lied. You won't know if you'll have governance according to these next few points, but you know you have governance is when your impact is upstream of influence. You'll know because your jurisdiction and authority activates at a higher altitude than regular leadership. Governance precedes leadership, because if reality isn't defined, what are you leading? You know what I mean? Your jurisdiction bumps you into laws that govern us that most people never touch, and you mirror God, the governor. Most people will attach their name to governance because it's a throne frequency, it's a position of power. The archetypes of governance, even according to my governance archetypal series on YouTube, you can just search it up or just click down below. But yeah, the archetype names are like king, queen, governor, throne frequencies. So it's attractive and it feels good to be powerful, to think of yourself as powerful. But just because you desire power does not mean you are a governor. You might just resonate with the teaching, and that's fine. But what's important is that you align yourself with who you are. I know that I grew up in the church, so I use a lot of religious examples, but when I was growing up, one of the biggest qualms people had with others was how everyone was a prophet, how everyone was a pastor. And honestly, I see nothing wrong with that. I think when you're grown, what I'm trying to say is when you are born into a very defined system, there are only so many examples of archetypes that you can grow into. Like, imagine saying, you go to church and they ask you what you want to be when you grow up, and you say you want to be a stripper. You know what I mean? Like, that's not an archetype in religion. Of course, you have, I guess, the traditional professional careers, but in religion, it's admirable and encouraged to be in ministry, So I believe a lot of people have found themselves in the positions and archetypes or office, whatever you want to call it, of pastoring and worship leading and prophecy and whatever it is. I have no problems with that. But the precedent that I want to set for governance is that it's not a name that you bear to describe yourself through archetypes. It is an actual office through whose invocation of that, not title, but office, does have consequence. And that's something I just want to make very clear. Typically, well, honestly, all governors definitely have a multi-venture vision that includes vision for impact and leadership that's unprecedented, ahead of its time, and it can't fit into any present system comfortably. And it also includes principles, methodologies, cultural theories, etc., that work for systems after they collapse. Governors fill in the space left behind by previous systems, previous outcomes that could not stand or weren't coherent. If God has called you disruptive, if he's ever called you a king, a queen, emperor, empress, this video is likely a direct confirmation of all you received in secret. I know for a lot of people, God has called them a king, God has called them a priestess or whatever, and they kind of kept it to themselves because they really never had a place for themselves to be validated. And this is why I exist, and this is what everything I do, to wake up the governors and to give them language and strategy and thresholds so they can activate their personal jurisdiction. If you would like to confirm more of who you are as a governor, I would like for you to watch my governance archetypal series on YouTube to discover the governance archetypal series, the governance archetype that you are. Again, have this confirmed with God. I will not tell you who you are. Multitudes of people will recognize themselves in this. Very few will actually house the office. So make sure you get that confirmed. And if you've already gotten the confirmation that I'm the person that you're meant to partner with to realign your empire to marry the vision that God has given you and to enact your governance through your authority, click the link down below titled The Internal Reckoning. That is my paid discernment threshold where we will recognize in each other both of our positions and how to move forward and what kind of covenantal partnership that we need to move forward with. But anyways, if you haven't already, before you leave, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and also download the free audio transmission From Leadership to Governance, Recognizing Your Unclaimed Jurisdiction. It's a 34-minute audio that will bring you from leadership awareness to governance, jurisdictional inhabitants. Anyways, I just thank you for watching this video and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.